The title of this is really called the PEO Exchange, where I'm just having conversations with executives within some of our partners here at ALKEME. And BBSI has been a strong partner with ALKEME over the last few years. And I thought it'd be good for our producer to hear directly from you in regards to all things going on at BBSI these days. So just a few questions I have. This is conversational for anyone listening, but had a few questions I wanted to ask you today, and hopefully you're ready. But I appreciate the time, and thanks for taking a few minutes to meet with me today. First, Gary, you run a very large organization, and I'm really interested, and I think those that listen to this will be interested in kind of what gets you out of bed every day and what gets you excited these days. If there's anything specifically you want to share with those listening.
Thanks, Jim, for having me, and thanks for ALKEME for being a partner. Large trading partners of ours. We really appreciate your business, really appreciate your trust. Best part of my day is not doing podcasts, but talking to referral partners and talking to clients. So if I think about what we talk to our referral partners and our clients about now, it's, what's new at BBSI. So for what's new, we have been on I'll say an IT journey where we have really redesigned what we call we call it the employee lifecycle, from when an employee's hired to everywhere in between to when the employee retires, right? So, in there we had good pieces of tech. We had good payroll, with good 401k, good benefits. We've started to roll out, but really we've evolved that IT landscape so that we have applicant tracking, so that when people are going to go hire folks, they can use our tech. We have performance management and HRIS system. Employee files. We have all these different techs that we've been rolling out to really make our business owners' life easier. So we've got really good tech with really good people, and that's our go-to-market. And we feel,
as I talk to other PEOs and leaders out there, the market seems to be changing. I'd be interested from your perspective, when you look at the market shift going on right now, is there anything that you see happening that's changing over the last year, or anything that you find yourself talking about kind of more than anything else as you look at the landscape and the market shift?
so market shift, do you mean insurance and rates, or do you mean other things?
Yeah, in the PEO industry and just in general, anything you're seeing with, like you said, the shifts in the market as it relates to rates. Yeah, I'd be interested in your perspective on that.
Health insurance in general has been a harder market. So we offer health insurance, we offer workers' comp. Clients don't have to buy it. They can buy, if they can get it at a better place or a better price, then they can do that. They don't have to buy the full suite of package. But we offer the suite, and we've seen health insurance the last 2 years, above trend renewals for everybody in the industry. We've seen workers' comp turn or start to turn in California. It's kind of been the joke of our organization that I've been calling the bottom for 6 years. And finally, I'm right. But we've seen the workers' comp start to turn, and we're seeing more accounts go to market, and we're seeing it broad-based from Northern Cal and Southern Cal. So I would say the rate environment is definitely, you're seeing the inflation come into medical, you're seeing the inflation come into workers' comp, specifically to cumulative trauma in California. Other markets, as far as the comp are not as hard or hardening as California, but we're seeing California in general being harder.
With that, has there been anything that's kind of surprised you, any adjustments that BBS has had to make with those adjustments?
If you go and look for California, you got the WCIRB the last 2 years proposed double-digit rate increases. And I would say the interesting part of that is the data that you're seeing that supports that is pretty much cumulative trauma. It's post-term CT, and then it's also the increase in litigation as related to those. And part of what you're seeing is the exporting of lawyers from Southern Cal to be able to, handle claims in Northern Cal. And you're seeing, that litigious nature of LA make its way up to the Bay Area.
Absolutely. Seeing the same thing. So when you kind of zoom out and look at the small to mid-size business landscape today, which I understand is really the clients that you serve for the most part, what's your kind of read on how the environment's going to change the second half of 2006 as we kind of head towards the back half?
So it's been a tough time to be a business owner, right? If you think of everything that's changed in the since COVID, right? You've exhausted the COVID relief funds. You've had inflation and rising material and labor costs. You've had tariffs that were driving things depending upon your business. You've had, shifting demand for the consumer for product base, right? We've had AI come out. Is AI going to eat the world? What's going to happen to the business owner, right? And then, right, we gave our revenue guide in February, and then 3 days later we go into Iran, and now you have Iran and you have gasoline prices and all this. So it's been a tough time to be a business owner. We run payroll for, call it 300,000 WSEs in a year, give or take. It's going to be a little more than that, like 340,000. We have a good pulse on the economy. And for what we saw last year, we saw Northern Cal slow down. So our clients reduced their workforce in Northern Cal, and it was predominantly the construction industry and businesses that had a interest rate sensitivity. And then that was Q3, and then Q4 we saw it slow down in Southern Cal. Same sort of fact pattern. It was the constructions and the trades. Q1 we saw it kind of moderate. It was still at a suppressed level, but it was I'll say the reductions were less. And then for Q1, January, every month got better, right? So March was better than February. February was better than January. So we saw the slowness start to subside, but there's definitely it almost feels like a pause button on the small business.
We kind of alluded to, Gary, some of the headwinds that we're seeing, and you're seeing some of the tailwinds when you have what broader out. Do you see any other tailwinds that will be beneficial for BBSI? And I had another question as it relates to AI and how you see that impacting the PEO industry in general.
Just in general, when things are hard, PEOs are more valuable, right? We work with our clients more than just running payroll, right? We work with them on the HR, we work with them on hiring and firing, we work with them on business strategy, how to be a good employer. We can help them with a good employment package where we bring that we bring the big benefits buying power down to the small business. So we can bring the scale down to the small business and help them. So typically when times are tougher, we do better.
That's great. And we're certainly seeing that across the industry right now. So when you think of BBSI, and I'm going to assume there's people that are going to listen to this that have never even heard of BBSI, how would you frame up today versus how you would have framed up BBSI, let's say 3 or 4 years ago?
Sure. So we are, if you're unfamiliar with BBSI, we are a PEO. We're national. We have pretty much 100 sales offices. We're in almost every state. It's easier to say the states we're not in. The states we're not in, it's because they don't have a heavy population like North Dakota. So we're a national PEO. We are broker friendly. We like to treat our producers as our clients as well, make sure we have 5-star service that we provide. But our differentiator is we have all the tools and the trades of a PEO, from payroll to workers' comp to benefits to tech, all of those things. But our real differentiation is our people. In all of our markets, you will have a local business team, and that business team is made up of a business unit. And in there, you have a business consultant, which is like the tip of the spear. You have a senior HR person. You have a senior risk person that can deal with, risk, safety, OSHA, things of that nature. And then we also have a payroll data person. So that's the core team. And then if you buy benefits, we have a benefits consultant that can help you on the benefits side as well. If the client has an issue or you have a question, we are the opposite of the 1-800, what's your account number? Right. Our differentiation is you have everybody's email address, everybody's cell phone, where our branch is, you can pop in at any time. And that's really our value prop of, if something hits the fan, you don't have to call an 800 number and sit in the queue. You can just stop by the branch, or you can call your person that's at the branch.
Yeah, which I think is fantastic. I've visited a lot of your BBSI offices, and what I've come to realize is that they sit all together. So if there's something that comes up, they can reach over to somebody across the cubicle and get an answer, or they can help resolve a client situation that's coming up or a challenge that they're dealing with. And I love the fact that you do have local offices, which kind of leads me into what you alluded to, Gary, as your broker strategy and really how BBSI differentiates yourself from the rest of the PEOs out there. I believe that you have a more, I'll say, distinctive go-to-market strategy or model, and it's more broker-centric, as you mentioned, rather than kind of direct to employer, which you see a lot of PEOs out there. They don't really have a broker strategy, and they are selling, almost competing and going directly to the employer. And I love that about our partnership, and I think our producers do as well. So can you kind of walk through kind of the philosophy behind that? Is the broker the right partner for BBSI versus just going direct?
Yeah, so we've had a cognitive strategy that we wanted to be broker friendly, right? Brokers have the trust of the small business, and we're not trying to usurp that trust. First and foremost, we're broker friendly. We pay commissions similar to the way the insurance market's going to pay, right? If you're going to get a commission on a comp at carrier X, we're going to make sure that we can, be in the same market as that price for the commission. So you don't lose anything by going with BBSI on the commission side. The second thing is we view you as clients as well, right? So we make sure that when we onboard a new client, we have a conversation with you as the broker of how much do you want to be involved? Do you want to be involved in everything? Do you want to be involved in some things? Do you want to be involved in the important things? We'll make sure we do the renewal with you when we get our indications, but we will create a service plan for you to make sure that you're getting what you need from our side. As we think of our agents, we put them into tiers, right? So we call them tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is the ones that are just very transactional and they're shopping, right? And they're just given volume. The tier 2s are when they graduate, they start to understand our product, they start to understand our value prop. Tier 3 is when they either can go sell us on their own or just make an introduction and say, talk to BBSI, they're going to take care of you, and they don't even go to the prospecting meetings.
Right.
But the idea there is they understand the product. Their tier 3s understand the product so well that they know that if they put business with us, right, we have the highest net promoter score in the industry, right? So clients recommend us to other friends, right? Number one. And then number two, I don't have publications on this, but we have probably the highest retention in the industry. So our clients who join us stay with us. Yeah. And typically when they leave, it's because they sell or M&A or that type of thing. That's our number one runoff reason. Yeah. But I say that because if you put the business with us, we will take care of it. We will keep you in communications. And if you want, you can not be involved in the day-to-day and go sell more, right? Yeah. So it's really, you put it with us. Our average client stays with us for about 9 years. Strategy of we will take good care of the client. We'll make sure you continue to get paid. We'll make sure that you're in the loop for everything. Yeah. But if you want to be in the loop, great. If you don't want to be in the loop, we'd love you to go sell more BBSI.
I love that. When I talk to brokers, sometimes they'll tell me the hesitation going to a PEO. I use this analogy quite often, and it seems to sit very well with the brokers, is understanding that their relationship with their client, I use it as their baby, right? Their baby, and they're giving their baby away to a foster parent, right? and some of the times they've had these relationships for 20, 30 years, right? And there's a hesitation. So to hear that from you brings a lot of reassurance to our brokers that if they send that baby, you're going to keep them in the loop. If that baby starts to cry, whine, if that happens, that you understand the sensitivity of that's their client, and you're watching their baby for them. And I love how you steward that relationship and understanding that the importance of making sure that you're taking care of them. And I think, when I hear from my brokers directly, we hear the reassurance that you said an average 9 years, that baby's going to be taken care of for a minimum of 9 years. And I know you have clients that have been with you for much longer than that. And that's something that they're looking for, is making sure that if they're going to pass off their baby, they're taken care of. And so I appreciate the fact that you guys do that. The next question I have is you shared a lot there in regards to how you steward and tailor that relationship with the broker. But if you had a broker and you're sitting across the table from them and you had to give your elevator pitch on when you talk to brokers and partnering with BBSI, what do you say BBSI does different than the usual suspects out there, the ADPs, the Trinets, the Paychecks, the Engage? You could go on and on, right? You got a lot of competitors in this space. I think the last time I counted, there's over 400 PEOs in the United States. What's your elevator pitch or your differentiation when you talk to brokers?
It really gets back to that business team, right? So we have the power of the pen for the health insurance. We have the power of the pen for the workers' comp. We have a true underwriting team. We've got actuaries. We got claims people. Like we have all of those insurance tools. But really, it comes down to that local team. That local team is our differentiator. We got good tech, good insurance product, good referral partners, but that local team, the hardest part of scaling our business is people, similar to your business, right? The
Yeah.
hardest part of scaling our business is people. We're in the people business. We tier
Yeah.
to people well. We've been an employer of choice for 5 years. We have a lot of initiatives and objectives to make sure that we're training, developing, and rewarding our employees. But when you go to the BBSI branch, you'll feel the warmth of the team. You're going to know that that team's there, that our North Star is the client, that's our focus and attention, right? We make sure that we're servicing the client, make sure that we're servicing the referral partner, and make sure everybody's on the same page and everybody's on the same loop. Right?
Yeah.
You talk about some of the competitors, right? I get asked this a lot from, our because we're publicly traded. So everybody wants to try to put you in a box and compare you to somebody else, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
like our differentiator against the pure PEOs that are publics is our people, right? There's not a service center that's in Houston or in Georgia or somewhere else, and we don't offshore it to Manila, right? It's a more expensive model for us.
Mm-hmm.
We price it competitively against everybody else, right? We're priced competitively, but it's a more expensive model because of, the investment we make in the local people.
That's great to hear, and I totally agree with that assessment. One of the things that I realize that here at ALKEME is I have a lot of producers that love PEOs, and they understand the value proposition, they understand the differentiation that BBSI brings. But there's still a lot of brokers out there that look at PEOs as being a threat to the relationship. Either they're going to take over my client, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, they become more peripheral. Help me explain and how BBSI has, and I believe you've done this, deliberately engineered your model to kind of flip this dynamic, because I hear the words like, PEOs are frenemies, right? You've probably heard that term before. And, a lot of the brokers say we have to have an offense and a defensive strategy when it comes to working with PEOs, because they've lost clients to some PEOs because they either had a payroll client and that payroll company has a PEO, and they reached into that bucket and started selling the PEO because there's more value, obviously more revenue associated than a pure payroll client. And part of the struggle I have is really helping you to see more of you as friendly versus frenemies, and get rid of that thought in the broker community. So maybe you can share a little bit about that. And you did earlier, being that you're very broker centric, I should say. But how would you address that for those skeptics out there, I'll say?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a client or a prospect and they're on one of the big competitor of ours payroll platform, their model is direct sales, get them on for payroll, and then inside sales, they're just dialing and selling on their inside sales.
Yeah.
So if you have a prospect or a client that's with one of the other bigs for payroll,
Yeah.
you know that their PEO division is going to call them to try to take that business from you. So that's what the market does. We don't do that. We don't have a direct sales team. Our sales team is responsible for working with referral partners and referral partners only. We don't go direct. We have a website. Some business comes to us directly, but the first question we always ask is, well, it's not the first question. We usually say, hello, how are you? Yada, yada, yada. But after you get through why you've been in business, we always make sure we understand who they're working with, because if we can, we want to work with that referral partner too, because ultimately, you win one client, you get one win. If you win one referral partner, you get many wins.
Right.
And that's the way we try to scale. And we're very aware, very cognizant. We have, if you bring a client to BBSI, we give a BOR to you. We make sure we protect it. Somewhere down the road, if say the client's going to BOR somewhere else, or they're asking for a loss run, right? We're going to go to you and say, hey, they're asking for a loss run. When's the last time you talked to them? Or, hey, we got a BOR. We're going to cool off for 10 days to see if you can get the business back. Right. So we really try to protect it for you. We have SOPs on our side for what our expectations are for how we treat referral partners as a client. We want to make sure you have the same 5-star experience that we want to deliver to our clients as well.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Gary, because one of the things I tell all of our brokers is, you might not think about it being that you're selling a monoline line of insurance or multiple lines of insurance, but know who your client is doing payroll with, right? If you don't know who your client's doing payroll with, unfortunately, we've lost clients to that very point that you made, where they were doing payroll with one of the big payroll companies that have a PEO. And like you said, they bring them into the payroll only to cross-sell them into the PEO. And fortunately, BBSI does not have that, but I think that becomes one of the areas that I'm really trying to emphasize importantly internally. You just said it, and we've got case studies around why it's important to know who they're doing payroll with. But I guess the question might come out is, how does that kind of translate to something the broker can actually sell? And how do you scale that within your organization without diluting the client experience?
It's a couple questions there. We've been on this employer of choice initiative to make sure we've got the best people and that they're the best trained. And we spend a lot of time, energy, and honestly money on learning and development, right? So we have a whole learning and development team. We have a learning management system. We have trainings for everything we roll out. We've actually taken that learning management system and we've pointed it to our clients to let them use it as well, right? So if they want to have trainings for their organizations, they can use that as well. But we invest heavily in our teams, right? We've been scaling this business for a while, and when you're scaling, honestly, it's not a SaaS platform where you just go hire salespeople and sell the platform. People will hear us say that people are a product. And people are the hardest thing to scale, and we're very intentional with it, right? The goal is if you go into a branch in Santa Ana, it looks and feels and you have the same service standards as a branch in Denver or a branch in Baltimore. So we've got consistency in how we operate. We've got SOPs for how we operate. We pretty much got your sales motion, and then you've got your operations motion.
Yeah.
And we make sure that we have focus and attention on both sides.
No, thank you for that. I'm not naive, right? You work with other large brokers like ALKEME, and many of them are some of your top producing brokers. I'd be interested when you look at those top producing broker partnerships that you have. Is there anything that they have in common in regards to what's making them a successful partner for you?
Each of our branches has a local sales person or a local sales team. Right. Some of our branches are larger and they may have 5 salespeople in the office. Some of our branches are developing and they may have 1. But really, it's that one-to-one relationship, right? So if you're a producer, you will get a sales, we call them business development managers. You'll have a business development manager. You'll have access to the AM and the rest of the branch and whatnot, but you'll have that one point of contact. And that one point of contact is the difference. You get to know them, they get to know you. How do you sell? How do you position? Is it new for you? I call it new, right? So it's a new prospect for you. It's new for us. All right. If it's new for you, how do we want to position this? What do we want to do? Maybe we can sharpen our pencil a little better if it's going to be a win for both of us. So we really have that strategy of, how do we go in together? How do we position this together? And if we got to be price competitive, what's the price we got to beat the market?
So let me flip that question. You have partnerships that work very well. And then unfortunately, you have broker partnerships that don't work so well. When you think about a broker partnership that's not working well, what would you say some of the key attributes to that would be?
Our team is really the secret sauce. And where we fall down with a partnership is when the partner just wants to spreadsheet us, right? And doesn't get us in front of the prospect. When we get in front of the prospect, we close 34% of the deals. It's getting us in front of the prospect because they can see, it's hard, right? My mother still doesn't know what PEO is. My wife doesn't know, right? So it's hard. It's an intangible, right? So how do you make it tangible? And we make it tangible in our discovery process where we go out and meet with the business owner, and depending upon what their pain point is, we'll bring the best of BBSI, right? So if they have a payroll issue, we'll bring a payroll person. If they got a risk and safety, we'll bring a risk and safety. If they've got a PAGA lawsuit or a wage and hour or this or that, we'll bring our HR in to help them, right? And we'll do free discovery on both sides, but they get to see what the value of the team is. And that's when we get in front of the prospect, that is when we have the best success. It falls down when it's just the spreadsheet exercise and you're trying to save a penny on rate.
So I wanted to kind of shift a little bit to kind of why brokers don't bring in PEOs, because we see that you have some that are very pro PEO, like I mentioned before. You have some that they won't. And industry wide, I think the PEO penetration really sits in kind of the mid-single digits for eligible small businesses or small to medium sized businesses. So from your seat, Why isn't that number 30% or larger? It just seems like it's such a great solution. And what do you think actually keeps this is a two-part question. I'm good at asking you two questions at a time. What do you think actually is keeping brokers from leading with PEO?
We get the question a lot from brokers about how, or from investors about how big can our market be,
Yeah.
right? So, there's stats out there for Hawaii is the highest penetration because health insurance is compulsory. If you have one employee, you got to offer health insurance. In Hawaii, it's like 65% of small businesses are with PEO. Florida is the number two. That's where that's where PEO was really born. Florida's at like a 55%, but that's how much the penetration can be. Nationally, you get different stats all the time, but nationally, the penetration for the PEO industry is about 14%. So as I think of how much more we can grow, the industry can grow 10 times without, it's not like Verizon having to try to steal clients from T-Mobile, right? There's that much business out there.
Sure.
So typically, everybody always remembers the bad thing, right? Everybody always remembers the bad experience, and the bad experience is it was probably not a broker-friendly PEO, and they took a client from the broker, and they remember that. We are broker-friendly first and foremost, and then the second thing that we see is, when they're apprehensive to bring us in, it's because they're uncomfortable with talking about payroll, or they're uncomfortable talking without HR. Well, I'm going to let you in on a secret here. I'm uncomfortable talking about payroll. I am not a payroll person, right?
Right.
But we have 250 people that know and love payroll. We can bring them in if it's payroll conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I know enough about HR. I'm not an expert in HR, but we bring in the HR experts, right? So you just have to be comfortable with, I have the saying of, I got a guy or a girl for that, right? I went in to meet with a client last month, and they asked me 7 questions and I didn't know the first 5 answers.
Right.
Like it was just that thing, and it's like, well, great question. We got a girl. Great question. We got a guy, and you have to be comfortable with that. And that comes with reps. That comes with experience of dealing with us. Our goal is to make you look well. We know it. We know it's revenue for you. It's a client of yours. It's a baby of yours, and we don't want to screw that relationship up. And we make sure that when we go in, we bring the best of BBSI, and we won't disappoint you.
I 100% agree. I find that the hesitancy that the brokers have in leading with PEO is one. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. Unfortunately, not all PEOs are created equal, and sometimes they found the bad apple, right? And so because of that, they base their ongoing experience based on maybe working with one PEO versus another. So a lot of what I try to do through forums like this is to educate, is to walk through that misinformation, that fear that they're going to lose a client. And so I appreciate you kind of clarifying that for us. When you think about a broker who decides not to introduce a PEO into the conversation, and they clearly need one, and we see that by asking a few great discovery questions, we can clearly see that they need a PEO. When you think about, they might have a client who clearly needs one, but they don't introduce a PEO, what do you think is typically going through that broker's head that has like maybe objections and potentially some anxiety about bringing in a PEO? What are you hearing most often out there?
Yeah, I would say if you're, when you're in the discovery and you're hearing those pain points, and right, we're not going to be a great fit for everybody. We're a great fit for most, but not everybody. But if you're hearing those pain points of more than just an insurance pain point, is it an HR pain point? Is it a payroll? Is it a hiring? Is it a attracting of employees?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Those pain points are things that are triggers for us that you should really be comfortable with. Of okay, I'm going to solve the insurance problem, but I'm also going to solve the employee problems, and that's where we really excel. And for folks that are apprehensive to it, I think it's literally gets back to that, that you haven't, until you've seen it, until you've brought a client on, until you've seen the onboarding, until you go to our stewardship meeting and you understand all of the work that we're doing and the value we provide. It's really getting that first one in, us doing it well, and then you seeing it. And then after that, that's when the volume starts to increase, right? Like typically when we have a new relationship, nobody wants to send you their crown jewel for their first one, right? They're going to send you the thing with hair. They're going to send you the client that's a pain, or the this or that, and see how you do to test you out. And we're fine with that, right? We know that we'll service it well, and by doing that, we'll earn your trust.
So let's talk about a question that I probably, Gary, should have led with, and that's money. Brokers, no surprise to you, is they're worried about bringing in a PEO potentially because they live and breathe in their livelihood around residual income on things like health, workers' comp. Depending on how you answer that, why hasn't the rest of the industry followed BBSI's lead on this?
In general, we pay commission, right? I can't be specific because it changes by state and all these different things, right? So depending upon the state, whether it's a PEPM, whether it's a percentage, right? So every state has its own, what we try to do is we look at what the insurance market pays for either comp and benefits, and we try to mirror that on our side. So we will pay you a commission on the comp if you bring us the comp. We'll pay you commission on the comp and benefits if you bring us both. Yeah. The selling point for a lot of this is, I haven't seen many agencies do both sides, P&C and EB, well. Mm-hmm. Every agency has the model of, or the desire to sell all the products to one client. I haven't seen it mastered anywhere, to be honest with you, to try to cross sell from the EB to the P&C or the P&C to the EB. I mean, everybody's got that thesis, but I haven't seen it execute flawlessly anywhere. For us, say you don't know anything about benefits and you're a P&C broker. Mm. Bring us the P&C. If we write the comp, we'll pay you on the comp. If we write the benefits, we'll pay you on the benefits, even though you're not even a benefits person. Yeah. So if you think about it, if it's done well, it's a additional revenue stream for you as the agent.
No, and I think that's what the brokers really value is if it makes sense, you'll include it. You'll carve out specific areas if it makes sense, and sometimes it does, to keep an open market quote or another alternative solution for their client, whether it's healthcare, looking at other options out there, that you guys have that flexibility, and even sometimes get double paid and triple paid, right, in regards to how they're developing the construct of the PEO that they're offering their client, whether they carve out workers' comp or they carve out EB and open that on the open market. And same thing with like 401k and retirement services, right? So you have that flexibility, which is really good. So I'll kind of wrap up the last part of this and try not to be too repetitive. I'm sure the investment community asked you this. I listened to a few of your earnings call, but I'd love to hear from you directly if you kind of step back and look at BBSI for a minute. And I think more probably the state of the industry. What do you think PEO and outsourcing HR industry is in its life cycle? Are we still early? Are we kind of mid? Are we at that really where we've matured? Do you have any insight into where you think it's at?
I think it's still early, right? If I think of just the basic model, right? So if I think of my house, I have somebody that cleans my house. I have somebody that I take my clothes to for a dry cleaner. I got somebody that cuts my grass. I got somebody that, yada, yada, yada. Right. So I've outsourced all those things because I found my time is more valuable and I don't want to do that. Right. So if you think of the business owner, right, they get into business because they have a product or an idea. Hmm. And then they want to scale. And then when they start to scale, they have to hire people. And they hire their niece, their nephew, their neighbor's kid, their friend, yada, yada, yada. They start to grow that way. And then they hit an inflection point where they've got to hire strangers, or they hit that inflection point of they're bogged down in compliance and regulations, right? You get into business and you find yourself working in the business, not on the business. And that's where we can come in, right? We can handle the HR. You don't need an HR. Like, I like to think of our model as fractional ownership. You don't need HR 40 hours. You don't need one person 40 hours a week. You need one person 3 hours a month. And that's where our model fits really well. So I don't see that demand going away. I only see the product evolving more and becoming more attractive to the business owner.
Oh, that's great. I 100% agree. I think we're at that point. I love the fact that you use the reference that you're working with multiple people, whether they're cutting their grass, they're cleaning your house, painting the house, right? You got all these people doing all these different things, right? And I love the model. That's why I'm such a big PEO person, because I think when you can consolidate that, there's a lot of efficiency that can be gained through that process. We started to talk about this earlier, Gary, but AI seems to be the topic that everyone's talking about these days. Cut through the noise for me. I mean, where is AI actually really creating value for BBSI today, and what's kind of still mostly just hype?
It's the question I get all the time: is AI going to eat the world? Right? Nobody knows. It's unknowable, right?
Yeah.
I can't tell you where it's going to be in 5 years. I can tell you where I think it's going to be in a year. That's probably about our only line of sight. So, for us, internally, we've used it predominantly for efficiency, right? So how do we keep our costs down and make our people more efficient? I'd rather our people do, more selling and servicing than doing more administration. And we've used it internally to cut down on the admin. Macro, the question we get from investors is, our clients' workforce is going to reduce because AI is going to eat the world, right?
Yeah.
For the nature of our businesses that we're in, we grew up blue, gray collar.
Hmm.
I don't see, right, plumber's got a plumb, carpenter's got a hammer. I don't see that going away. On the white collar, and we have a white collar vertical as well. We good tech, we have good health insurance, and that's more important to the white collar. I see some possible disruption there, right? Think of accounting, lawyers, things like that. You're getting way more efficiencies there. So I think depending upon the industry, right, just for us internally, right, we do our own software development, and I can tell you, in our software development lifecycle, which is like 7 different buckets for how we look at SDLC, we are like 35% more efficient now. And that, we're not doing this to reduce costs, but what we're able to do is bring more product to market. And if you look at our product rollout, we've rolled out product way quicker than we have historically because we were able to adopt this. And then the next thing is, how do we bring this to our clients? Our tech stack is built in a modern tech stack. We have things we're working on, but we don't have that magic bullet yet. We've done things for our clients to make them more efficient, but we haven't done anything, and we're investing in it, but we don't have, call it that answer yet for how AI is going to benefit our clients through our tech stack. But we know that we're going to be rolling that out in the future.
Yeah. But I think we see the same thing on the broker side where we get asked the question, is this going to kind of commoditize the industry, or is it going to raise the ceiling for what we currently deliver? And I think when you put it on our side, on the broker side, we're using those AI tools as doing things like creating efficiency when you're benefit comparisons or answering compliant questions or even policy recommendations when we're providing that back to the employer. And I see that the broker's role is really evolving. And it sounds like what you're saying, Gary, is that you're also evolving with it to help make things more efficiency, but it's also lifting the ceiling as well.
Yeah, I don't, there's that thesis out there that, if you go and look at the public for the broker side, you see the multiples contracted because AI eats the world, and you saw the multiples contract more for the, they think it's going to eat the small commercial and the personal lines. I don't see it happening. I mean, ultimately the end consumer is not an expert in insurance. The end consumer doesn't trust insurance companies or insurance carriers. I don't see that going away. I think it's a little bit of a head fake right now, especially, take that. And then also these SaaS platforms. I don't see SaaS going away. I think the multiples reset, but I don't think it's a fair representation that these companies go away.
We shift. When I'm talking to a lot of clients, and I think we're seeing it across the United States, we're seeing that the labor markets have been a bit volatile lately, and search for talent and labor. We've seen things like wage pressure. We're still seeing a lot of hesitancy to return to office tension, right? And then you have these generational shifts. What are you guys telling clients about their workforce challenges right now, and is BBSI kind of helping navigate some of those real challenges? I mean, with wage pressure, with return to office, you got the generational shifts, as I mentioned. What are you guys telling clients?
I'm a big believer in you got to practice what you preach,
Yeah.
right? So if we want to teach our clients or coach our clients for how to be an employer of choice, we better be an employer of choice, right? So we make sure that we take lessons we've learned, right? Because we have scale, we have size, right? It's hard to be the small business owner, right? We have scale, we have size, we've got experts. I can go outside and get different opinions, get different counsel. Like, they don't have as much access to that. But what we're able to do is take that scale and break it down to that small business and say, all right, if you're having trouble hiring, why? Right? Do you have a good benefits program? Do you have a good work culture? Do you have a good hiring practice? What's your interviewing like? We can help you on the interviewing side. If you can't hire somebody, right, we can do recruiting for you. right? We have recruiters that can go and do the recruiting. So we've got a whole suite of products that are there to help them be successful if they want our help.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know we're drawing up here on the hour, so I promise, Gary, I have two more questions, and they won't be trick questions, I hope. So if you and I were to sit down, let's say 24 months from now, and what would you be able to point to and say, that's what BBSI accomplished?
2 years from now, we will have more tech, more product. We will be more AI enabled. We will be in more markets. So we've been expanding our geography. We're in the last 4 years, we've opened up about 24 new markets, and we're going to open, anywhere from 5 to 8 a year. And that's going to continue to grow. So think of the client and grow, right? We're a public company, and we got to make sure we're a growth company as well.
That's great. This is not a trick last question, I promise. I don't ever want to end up that way. But is there any questions coming into this discussion today? And I appreciate your time and wanting to just sit down and have a candid one-on-one conversation. But is there any questions that you were thinking that you wish I would have asked you in regards to BBSI, but I didn't?
No, I think we hit on everything, right? So, I would just say we're a public company, and I would say that my pain is your pleasure, right? So we've got an independent board. We're SOC 1 compliant, ESAC compliant. We've got Deloitte as our auditor, de-risk the organization. Even though we lay off all of our insurance risks, so we either share and layer it, or we've got some of the different programs that we don't take the insurance risk. We don't have any debt. So I say that because we are a very clean organization. We're run very financially conservative.
Mhm.
And I say that because, if you put somebody with BBSI, like say we have this thing we call boot camp where all of our new hires come in,
Mhm.
right? I view that we run this company conservatively so that this can be a place you can retire.
Right.
So for you placing a client with BBSI, ultimately, I think it's that client can stay with us until they want to exit their business.
Which is great. That full life cycle.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, I appreciate, I'll start out with what I said. I appreciate your time. Hopefully this hour has been beneficial for me. It has been beneficial for me. I think it'll be
I hope
beneficial
it's been
for our
beneficial
brokers.
for you.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're, like I said, a busy guy. You got a lot of things you could have done with this hour, but you spent it with ALKEME and our producers and educating them on what's happening in the industry. And for that, I greatly appreciate, and I think they will as well, hearing from somebody like yourself on the perspective of BBSI in the industry. So thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity, and we greatly appreciate the partnership with ALKEME. We do very well with you, and I view this relationship is only in its infancy. So I would love to do more with you.